Milisi romat. Ma jatskalge madaosen. Hoji vage romat milisi. Jabushi dadi ichkin man aja hojif kirundo milisi hojif roman. Ma jahitskin jabushi dadi man atladet man jahojif romat. So my name is Melissa, but my grandmother named me Melissy after her mother. So I'm named after my great-grandmother, Melissy. But it later changed to Melissa. Mahajogo athen, state kiponagat, kitlas bagayhojan athen. Ma chahojif kamo Melissy ongo Melissa sagayhojan. So my name became Melissa after I went to school. The English version of Melissy is Melissa. So, ma chahitskadi jokadat Melissa magadolege. Mondan chachkal geda madogosen chahochi baginomat Melissy. Ma mahajogotlo dana chahojifka Melissa nomat. Hayuwa ma chahojif foide. OS Zanahangalgi, Getsegedes Majogo Abogo, what Jajiswat, Zanahangi Muat, what a Melis Zarasagete, man, Dizakia, Luia. So my brothers and sisters, and the ones around me, they call me personal name Melis, not Melissa. And so only they know that name, so that's what they call me. So my sisters and brothers, that's what they call me, Liz. Tizari ponakatol ko singit na domats, aja tolo. Chua hitskaman, allergies anayan. Ipagin mahin, atulgan o lechen, saskidari da. Chua hisan, Joga hisa no way to hagi bandos, Jakaisen, when Jogan hisanos is magan. Stihet kiponagan kilandons is hadamagan. Sabingalos desin, Yada Wetumpka, allergies to him. Man, bus makdoa, Machunits go with Alaga his, Manolegi, man, Totanos is Jakaisen. Amana. Slotayo. Abal dagi da tehet kucalgi tisari ponakan kislagi go tehet ki ponakan do ko ponayage olen ma to te jiyo ma maha chogo uwa man to te jiyo bida ko jit abal ba fullagan mara o silak se hoge fullagen ponayage nagi maka tro kitla singa. When I first started school, my dad told me I had to go to school. So I was about 6 when I started school here in Wetumpka. And he said we'd have to ride the bus. And he said it'd be like a big, he called it kind of like a big truck. So, but it was a bus. So we started school and all the other kids were speaking English. And I didn't know what they were saying. And that was the first time I was exposed to English. One when my lutayat, mana basuan, I had a bag and all that. Do it the first night I get out. Yakabe, my ahogi hoga girong my patsanayan. Mahaya don't go on, mahokti, hoktalusina, hoiten. Aja hates it, man. Hayo mage adis noi mage ani moi mizan aha mage okahe hayo an ada notice mage nak mage to nak maka ingitawan os ingimet hayo mage aja kahyan man chogo hangin man yan lega notice mage on ton lega mat. So when I first went to school, I got off the bus, there was a lady, older lady. I guess she was the teacher. And she was using her hand gesture to tell me to come to her. And then when I got to her, I didn't know what she was saying, but by her hand, she was showing me where to go. So she took me to the classroom, told me where to sit. So I sat there. So bingalos to is and do it again like my leg and man sale di choya man mahaya da. Asha baklat ma hoken na baldagi abo am asha baklagen ani a hulte. Mana mahaya huila batsan. O malga na hijaget sabakle do ani yo mada na hijeron. Ingi o man e hokpi o hui no lezegi do nak makaktua. Mosti ho yo bet di zed huila. Nagin do waktu ini going agille saka agille suila yo man hada respoyangan hada abokakton anio leket na ira nak maktoa mo ingil takon elegi bemas afana abolda ya naktoa mo maran anio mite. So that first day in school, the teacher had everyone to stand up and they were saying something, I didn't know what they said. They all stood up, so I stood up. And they had their hand on their chest like this. They were facing the teacher. I didn't know what they were saying. I didn't know what they were looking at. And then she told them, sit down. I said, well, sit down. And I did what the other kids did. I had to watch them. I didn't know what to do. And so I hadet gomalga ma todeja madami jidumat naklishka atas kidon man hijakto kon kil hilag sagediza ya manuakto haden naklishka donga kumaira gitleja always mami jakto ka kon I gitle mat nagaruat. Every morning when we got to school they had us to do the same thing. Put our hand on our chest and say what we were saying. And I thought they were just talking to that old rag. It was the flag. And I can't remember how you say the flag. But that's what they were saying, Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't know that. And over time, I found out that's what they were doing. And so it was strange to me for them to be honoring something that's a rag, you know. And hayuat that morning nagitlezan. Madad naklish ka ron duesan. Asakki saktua go nagitlezan. Madad nakungon duat. I used to think they were giving respect to a rag, which is a flag. And I used to wonder, why would they do that? You know, it didn't make any sense to me, you know. But again, you know, over time I found out it was the Pledge of Allegiance, you know. When you're young, they don't tell you what it's all about, you know. And especially when you come from a Mvskoke speaking family, they don't teach you the white history. Mondues and Hayen Mahaya that Nagi Maktua Healing in Gitawan. Hoktosi hangit out the domats, Maladon. O as Tijari Ponaka Kilti domats. But Adiga domats. Zawan one hangit out the domat. Hoktosi Maladon des and Adiga domats. Hayo nak mahok to stimage pombanayan man hada humbira de sulti na mo pomana hoy ma hokto si pombanayan no mat hada ya chogoji des maga na man tadowa mo ay amonayan. So when I was in school there was a little girl, she was part mulatto and she could speak the language. She was our interpreter. And she would tell us when we had to do things, time to eat. If I need to go to the restroom, she'd tell us where it was. And she helped us a lot, me and my older sister. So we were in separate rooms, me and my older sister. But that little girl helped us. Whereas Harjo that mahoktoji hojifkara jahujibiro. Whereas itski that ase antawana abogiromat. Ma totejir fully dreamat. Ma ilkida stillastinun desen. Ja takobay kahagaman ojidon. Man istella onward, stalitska onward, man saltidomat. Stalitska. Adame onward, ojigoron, saroki goron. Madogosin saltidomat. This little girl, she was part Malada, or she was Malada. Her father was a black man, and he was the only one that had a mule team with a buckboard wagon. And he was the last one that I remember here in town, in Wetumpka, that had that. And we used to go to their house every now and then. And it surprised me, because I had never seen those kind of people. But Ichkira, Hitska, Hatki Omi Romans, Igesi Charidoman. Always, Mvskoke Bonaga Islagidomas. Toji Ichkalgi Islagidomas man. Jatskidari man, Imbonayidomas. This little girl, her parents could speak the language. Her father was black, but her mother was white with red hair. But they both could speak the language. So my dad, he spoke to them. So just kidari man, stijari bonaga dogos in giltiran. Just kidat, state gibonaga stores in giltidomats. Man, bonayiran. Just kidat man, Yufala, Harjo-Moffer Adadidon. Mo state gibonaga man Alden giltidoridon, man moan giltiran. So my mother was sent to Yufala boarding school, and she was taught English there. So she could speak a little bit of English. And my dad, though, he couldn't speak any English at all. He was Mvskoke. But, hey, we were from around here in Wetumpka. But from here, we were sent to Seneca Indian School. Yadan Joga Salajitsid, Ofunigon, Oktolabi Mahi, Oltaman, Joga Hitska, Hubayushin, Asrut Hoedido, Jawan Wadibagia, Hubayushin, Gagan, Getsagadis, Hangit, Jawan Wad Altidom, Manabogan, State Kibonaga Kishi Dreamats. Manabogan. Joga Hiskoma, Hoyani Nan, Hada Jogan Abayan Rock, just Mahoka, Hada Yetchin, Man Yada Hayoa, Dakfoli of Bubushi, Hangit Legadon, Mada Stijadi Bonaga almost in Bonai Romans. Must have Kibonagan Bonaya, Bohan Hoetzidomats. Stijari Ronchiga, Stijari Bonagandogos in Bonaruansis, Boyhotel. She Hitskadat, Stijari Hitskaronsis, Stehekirongor, Chihagi Godos, Boyhotel. So my grandmothers used to tell us that when we come home, when we tried to speak English, she used to tell us, "You're not Hawaiian, your color hadn't changed." She said, "You're still Indian, you have to speak." So we had to speak Mvskoke when we were here at the home. And we couldn't speak English. So both of our grandparents spoke Mvskoke. So we had to speak in order for them to understand us. They didn't know English at all. So that's the way we kept our language. Jatski Ichke mo, Sitsari Bonagados and Bonayadon. Jatski mo, Ichke. Mara stijari bonakan mo madogo sengil no ma pona ya ge fully no man state ki pona igoro se poga hoje fully be ma stijari no chiga madogo se pona arwantis poga hoje man monda hayuwa madogo se pona yid fully be ma monda an hayuwa kitle mongor abaldagi follaka kitla gedomat one dage shrustil fully domat o eso malga somitito ada hange ketchagre brother hange ate domat o bona domat wada shonget ben I had one brother, he died, but he was a speaker also, and I had 4 sisters, they were speakers also. They all spoke the language. And the last one passed last month. She was a speaker also. So 4 sisters and a brother, they all were speakers. And we were all told to speak the language. So that's what we did. And Poboshidad, Mama Gedomat, Stijari don't chiga, Mama Bonaruansis, Pogahojan. Stim Dihijinaman, Stimpona Yeduemat. So when we got together, we spoke the language. And since that's what our grandmothers told us, that's what we did. So we kept speaking it. And so that's why I try to keep it today, keep speaking it. Sometimes when I don't speak, Zahosi Haktones and Omahad Angus Danatana Imbona Yeduis Tizarabonaganovan. So I try not to forget the language. So when I'm by myself, I speak the language to me, to myself. So I think that if you have to, my teachings in my mind is that we all have a spirit. So when we call on it to help us, we can speak. In fact, I think we can do almost anything. So when the boy fixed that, boy fixed a hilat man, but I called it us, maho gironga. Man, I'm an edge to it. Bonagada, Tizari Bonaga, Taya, to stairs and Oma had Angus Nama, Bona Edue, when I'm an edge. Nagedes, Migos up Cades, Goenamo, Bonayed. Hada Naktes, Bonahoadi, Bonagoji Mahoa. Nak onagoji onwa desman onahoade man. Sagit lezeruis man. Mada sijari bonagan oven bona onahoade longa man. More sagit lezeruis. You know, they say the spirit within us can help us. So when I need to speak, I call on it to help me speak. So sometimes it's through a prayer. But sometimes it's just remembering a story. And most stories are funny in the language. Mm-hmm. So I have to think it in the language. And when I think of it, I can laugh to myself. But it's only in the language that it's funny. So if I try to think of it in English, it's not so funny. So, but that's how I keep the language going in my mind, so I have to speak it. And sometimes I repeat whatever I might have heard a long time ago. So that helps me keep the language going within me. You know? So again, when I spoke to children, I tell them that sometimes about a joke. A friend of mine that lives here in Wetumpka, she tells me little jokes, and she knows that I know the language, so she'll speak it, and we get a big laugh, you know. So Ahisha hangi ya dan legiruwe nak sabil ka onwan onaka amana iruwe naktes hayuwe bohes maget nakte amana iron pona kota pona sabil ka haya onwan man ojirunga man amana ay timbana ho ide mo stijare pona ka gilirunga man timbana ho ide nak makto ya dan giliron always mada hayo sausi bidis magiro na ye makto sa gileron des hila pona ya koda sa hagi bidos magire. I have a friend here that speaks that understands the language but she doesn't speak it, but she loves to tell jokes, so she'll try to tell me in the language, and then when we talk she knows that I can speak it, so I try to bring out certain words in the language, and it makes the story a lot funnier. So I think that helps a lot. But conserving the language is something that should have been done a long time ago. When I was in school, I'm gonna say back in the 80s, ma oktulubi solgosin hayawad, oti tonga, harijiska. Stijare ponaga saleji zaya ketsagres mahaida saleji zaya 1982 mahen saleji zera si horun ve mahaida ve domats mamahida saleji zedna hayuwa sti sulgi ponayage fulana dis komedi. I started teaching the language back in 1982 in around here. I think if that had kept on, we'd have more speakers today. Because I was teaching children. Mahaga aleji zaya, pira wajin saleji stoamat. Hari mahajogo aleji zapan. And saleji stoamat. Pira wajida ilapkin hislagirunga. Mada hito is going. I thought that was a good thing to be teaching the children because they were just starting to learn in school. So that was 1982. And here it is, 2023. If that program had kept going, we would have a lot more speakers today. Because we lost a lot back in 2020. We lost a lot of speakers. And in I think it was 5, there was a lady that had started an immersion school. She had children, and she had it for about a year, and she called on the council for help. She didn't get the help. Again, those children would have been speaking today. The council had helped her. Mondan hokti hangiya mahajogo salidonbats bidagoje mahaira gon salenya stijari bonaga. Mondan maneho zatna hayuwa bidaje getsagere istisulge haya stijari bonaga bonaya ge fulana di hayuwa. Whereas maneho chigodayen salid wetumpka. Bidagoje dogoje man. Hari nak kisagironga man saladis hona man kisagidis komaide man mahaya doan all that hofanigon gofanak skoma man hada pira hojin mahaya sagai hojin ambo hoen inga makke mo pira hojal mahaya saledo mat moksolobi usta mahino leje wetto mat. So I taught the children too, again, in some years back for the nation on Mahayat. I taught in child care. I taught for about 4 years, teaching children. The smaller, the younger they are, the more they learn, the faster they learn. And they will pronounce it just exactly how you say the word. Now, the language immersion they're having today, I don't think it's going to work out. In my years of experience of teaching, I don't think it's going to work. Maha e ra le domat, bida o jeme sale di choyen, man sale jizen, mada lep king kitla gerumat. Hayo at that ma idalwa, Mvskoke man, jo mahayan o zagen. Bida o jinongon, bida o jihayo, ketsagades haya bida ge, azuleta geronga man mahayet full duido. Man mahayan luis maga ge full duido. OS mada mohigos como idea azul gironga tinda mahayat sa lady that bida ko men nakit la girue bida ko libos ko sa today they have an immersion school. I don't think it's going to work. From my experience, again, children, the smaller they are, the younger they are, the faster they learn. And if you have children that are a little bit older, like past 12 and on up to college, they don't learn so fast. So, in my opinion, the immersion school they started, it's not going to work. They may learn, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time. But if they had started the immersion, if the council had helped the immersion school that started way back in 2004, we'd have more speakers today. A lot more speakers. That's all I have.